Welcome back to another episode of A Conversation with God with Renee. As you can see, I have a human beanie here with us, guys. I'm so excited. So, I don't even want to go more. We're just going to get right into it. So, guys, I'm going to introduce you to Lani. See, I literally thought of it, and then I'm overthinking it. Beasuejour.
Beasuejour.
Beasuejour. Y'all, if y'all would have knew the behind the scenes of that. All right, so we have you here. I'm so excited that you came. Thank you so much.
I'm excited too. Thank you, honestly, for having me.
So I want you to do a little introduction of yourself. Introduce yourself to the people. Who is Lani? Who's that?
I am a wife, a mother, a pastor, a sister, a friend. I am, most importantly, a daughter of God, a child of God. And I know I'm not even just saying this because it sounds good to say. Yes. Like, God is really, like, everything to me. And so I guess in a nutshell, if I had to give who I am in a nutshell, I wear all of those titles. I'm a podcaster also myself. I am.
Your podcast is? Shout it out.
You said shout it out?
Shout it out.
Healing Every Soul podcast. I'm a podcaster. I am that too. So that's like pretty much everything in a nutshell.
Yes. So I do want to go down a little history because we know each other from intermediate school. Yes, this is where we met. Girl. Yeah. Okay. So when we was young, I met you through a mutual friend, Mira.
Yeah.
And you was very, to me, you was very, quiet to yourself.
Mm-hmm. You're talking about 49 days, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how I met you, very quiet to yourself. So when it came to Christianity, did you, was you raised in a Christian home? Because as I will, later on, follow you via social media, when it was, you grew up in a two-family household, met your sisters, amazing sisters, by the way. But I just want to know, a little bit more about you, because I know that was, my first introduction. Yeah. We will hang out a little bit, but it wasn't, intimate,
right.
after school. Tell me a little bit more about that.
So I did grow up in a Christian home. My mother... the family that I grew up in, it was very, anybody that came over, whether it was cousins, friends, anybody that came over to spend a night. If you came over for the weekend, Sunday, you was going to church. And at the time, now our church, you dress down, but back then it was church clothes, that was what it was called. And so if you didn't have that, then you was borrowing one of our outfits. I remember one time, not to go off topic, but my cousin had on church outfit, right, with ACG boots. That was, I will never forget that. So I grew up, all that to say, I did grow up in a Christian home. But I think for me personally, my walk with God became personal, because it's one thing for you to grow up and this is what you learn, this is what you're accustomed to, because this is what's taught, and that was what it was. I grew up in a Christian home. Sundays was the day where we came home. It was family day. It was no phones, no company. It was we chilling out in the kitchen with each other after church, and we breaking bread together at the table, all of that. And so that was what it was for us every Sunday. I'm talking about my father would have his phone turned off. If the house phone is ringing, I remember he would have it off the hook, because it was just Sundays was our day, right? And so that was what it was for me growing up. But as a teenager, my walk with God became personal, I want to say, at about 14, 15 years old. Once I got to high school, that probably going into my second year of high school, that was when my walk with God became personal, because I felt like, and even though I was young, I don't know, I felt like I didn't really, I would be cool with so many people, right? But I felt like I just didn't fit. I felt like I didn't fit, and I felt like no matter what I looked to or what could have been other outlets, it just didn't suffice. And so at that point, I was just like, that was when I was like, okay, I need God. Like, I kept on saying, I remember I was just like, I don't know, like, I feel like I need some kind of breakthrough. This is young me. I'm like, I feel like I need some kind of breakthrough. Like, I just feel like I need God. And that was like what happened for me at about 14 years old, almost close to 15. I was like, when my relationship with God became real for me. And it was like, all right, this is what it is for me.
That is beautiful.
Yeah.
That is so beautiful. My walk was a little different. Like, I didn't grow up in a Christian home at all. Mm-hmm. Actually, my family was Catholic. So, like, my grandmother grew up, I would say, like, around a lot of Italians. So, like, that's kind of how it went. It was like your environment was like, we're just going to join this crew. Yeah. So, we will go to, like, their gatherings and things of that nature. And I remember, like, my sister and my cousin having the ceremony where they wear the white dress. I think what is it called?
Communion?
Communion, yeah. Okay. So once they had that celebration, we stopped going to church. So it was like once they had that, we would only go to church on like Easters and Ash Sundays and stuff like that. And it wasn't like religious in my household. So like my relationship with God was, the thing about it is I always knew there was a higher being. Okay. I didn't have a name attached to it. I just thought I just know there's a higher power. Yeah. At a very young age, I think my introduction to him was because I was introduced to death very early. Okay. So like when I was young, I was told like, oh, you're gonna die, and then that's it. And I was like, whoa, hold on, Jesus, wait, somebody, anybody. Yeah. I was like, how does that like? So I remember that used to keep me up at night. I used to fear death, and I used to be like, oh my God, I'm gonna be forgotten. Like nobody's ever gonna remember me. And I remember like crying asleep, but in the midst of me crying, I just remember like praying, but like not to a name, but to a being. Like I just remember belonging to something outside of where like my environment was. And just like you, I didn't feel like I didn't fit in. I felt like I was always like the outcast. But the difference is what I did is I tried to fit in. So I created this character of myself to fit in. It was the goofy, it was like the stupid blonde friend that was like the funny person. I'm the outgoing friend. But when I would be home, I was a different person. I'm reading, I'm journaling, I'm more to myself as opposed to when I get around people. I'm more like, I'm just this extrovert. Yeah. And I remember it came a point in my life where I'm like, I don't want to wear this mask anymore. But then I don't know how to live with both of me. And I was really just going through an identity crisis. Wow. And I remember, this was like in 2020, I'm going to go with 2020. Sitting on my couch and I just feel this, like this I feel heavy. And it feels like there's a weight on my chest, and I can't explain like why I feel so heavy. But in the midst of me, I'm going through like financial things, and I'm just like, Lord, I can't. And the thing about it is, when I was introduced to Christianity, it was my sister. My sister at that time, she was 16 years old. She converted to Christianity. She was like in an entire like it was a community of people within our projects that would like go to church, and she would go with them. So like my first time even going to church would be with my older sister, but even then I wouldn't know what it is, and it wouldn't like. And again, like my relationship with him was like on and off. Like it was kind of like how people are introduced to God, like, I need something, hey, get me up out of this. I don't need you no more, I'm good. Yeah. And that's what it was, but I wanted more, I just didn't know how to do that. And I think, when I was sitting on that couch, and I remember, my son is sleeping, my husband, he's sleeping, and I'm just in the living room by myself, and I was like, God, I can't, like, I don't want to do this by myself anymore. Yeah. Like, whatever it is you need from me, okay. Right. And this is like my okay, right? I'm not giving him a yes yet. He has yet to get a yes. And I remember he would get my yes. So I was watching this sermon, and the pastor's like, give God your yes. I said no. Oh, my God. I'm like, no. Because at first I'm like, what is really a yes? Like, what is that? And I remember my full breakthrough would be in 2023. No, actually, was it this year? I think it was really this year. I went to Tulsa with my sister, and we went in the back. So, like, after the service happened, we went in the back to, like, for people to pray. And I remember I walked over to this lady, and she's like, you're heavy. She's like, but you're connected to people. Like, you have, blood is connected to you. Like, you have to give God your yes. And I remember she's praying with me, and I scream out, I'm scared. Like, I'm terrified. Because the spiritual, what I was assuming with God, right, was that the experience I had with humans was the same experience I was going to get with him.
Oh, wow. I know how that goes.
Because I didn't have a father.
Yeah.
So what does that look like for me? The person I was supposed to trust, that was supposed to be there for me, he abandoned me 6 months in.
Yeah.
So how do I call you my father? And if I call you my father, how do I trust you? And I think that was my dilemma with my relationship with God for a while. It was just like, I would hop in, I would hop out. But then as I continued to grow and seek him, it was like, I think this is a little bit better.
Yeah.
Because I think with me growing up was like, what is better? Is the world better or is God better? And if God is better, how is he better? And I think in my environment I was in, I didn't get the chance to see that because I felt like the way that God is spoken about is like granted he is a miracle worker, but it's like, is that all that he does?
Right.
Does he also heal? Does he where's the other evidence of how good God is?
Yeah.
And I think he showed me that personally, and I was like, you did your big one, brother. I was like, you did your big one, but you grew up in a Christian home, so like that was basically like God was already working through your parents. So this was he basically was like, this is going to be your path. How did you transition into being a pastor? Like when that conversation came about, like how did you go, okay, God? Because that alone,
it's funny because you said a lot, and you said a lot. I want to get to your question, but like I gotta process everything that you said. I gotta process everything that you said, because I feel like one thing that you said that was so heavy is the fact that just like how that personal experience and it's like the impact it had on a relationship with God. And I remember personally for me, like one time I was in the bed and I'm in prayer and I'm saying to the Lord, I'm like, God, I trust you. Over and over I keep saying that. And I'm here, it's like I'm literally hearing the Lord respond back to me, like, just trust me, daughter. And I said, Lord, I trust you. And he says, just trust me, daughter. And by the third time, I start tearing up. I'm like, God, like, what is this? Like, because I'm telling you, I trust you, but then I'm hearing the voice of God speak back to me and to tell me to trust. And I have realized in that moment that the disappointment that I've experienced from people, right? And not even like in a sense, like, and that's why for you, where you said like from the Father, for me, it was just like people, right? From people. And I'm like, the experience from people had impacted my ability to fully trust at that time. And so like, just when you said that, I'm just like, wow, like that is like, I can understand because I've walked that, you know, like I've lived that, where it's like, you've experienced things from people, and so it impacts the ability to fully give trust to God. But when you do, it's like when you learn him in a different way, right? Like, because so many times, like you mentioned, like, all right, people speak about God from the perspective of a miracle worker. Like, anytime someone needs something done, it's like, okay, I'm looking to God. Or anytime people, you know, like, all right, this is happening, like, they look to God. But it's just like, personally, when that relationship becomes, when you get to know him as Father, as friend, as Savior, like, I'm talking about saving you from directions you could have gone, saving you from darkness, saving you out of anxiety, depression, all of these different things. It's like, the relationship just is different when you personally get to know him for yourself. So that was, but let me get back to your question. I'm sorry.
That was needed. Somebody needed to hear that. Somebody definitely needed to hear that. I love it.
But okay, so how did I get to pastor? So honestly, I knew for I want to say when I got to college, right? Like the call of God that was on my life became clear to me there, because prior to that, you know, growing up in church, going in ministry also, like, that was something that, you know, like, people will minister and they would speak over me and things like of that nature, like just saying what the Lord is showing them as it pertains to the call of God on my life. And I remember even at the time growing up, like my pastor at the time when I was growing up, she passed away now, but the my former pastor when I was younger, I remember she used to be like, Lani, there's more to you than poetry. Like you don't you like and I would be like, cause for me as a young girl, to be honest, I was like enamored when I would see people break down the Bible in such a way where it's like you are able to really break down the Word of God in that way. And so I would be like, oh my goodness. And like, so the thought when people it's telling me at 15 and 16 years old, like, yeah, the Lord is calling you to do this. To me, I could not wrap my mind around like, well, how do you even get a message together? Like when people would be like, oh yeah, like I heard the Lord saying this, that, and the third, and this is what, and so I couldn't seem to understand that. But I remember, it's funny, like I remember the very first time, like I heard God just speaking to me, giving me instruction on where to go in the Bible, like, and like the Holy Spirit just giving me insight, like look up this word, look, and like, and I'm just like writing things down, like precept by precept, and so like that was the first time that happened. And I want to say I had to be like, I want to say like 17, maybe 16, 17, around that time. But then after that, I left for college. And I remember when I went to school, that was where like my life shifted, to be honest, in such a crazy
was it
way.
A shift, like a challenge?
No, it was a shift. Like I got to know God at a whole different level because yes, my like growing up in a Christian household, you know, that was wonderful. It was a safety net. But being away at school, it was like you're out of your comfort zone. You're out of what's familiar to you. You're away from everything that you know. And it's just like now this is where your walk with God becomes personal, right? And so for me, that was what it was. And to be honest, like right before I had left for college, at that time, like I felt like I was just like like I veered away from God, like, and that was, yeah, like I felt like I veered away from God. So I remember saying like, yo, I feel like when I go away to school, like it's just like I need something, like, because I was going to a Christian college. I was like, yo, I need something, like, because this place that I'm in, I'm just like, this is like I need something, I need more. And so I went away to school, and I'm away from what's familiar to me. So I just start like just reading the Bible. Just I'm reading the word day by day. I'm reading the word, and my school, it was a Christian college, so they had like a prayer closet on every floor, like in the dorms. And so one day I'm in the dorm room, and I'm in the prayer closet, and I'm praying. When I say that I felt the presence of God in such a tangible way, like it was like a weight, like it was just like a weight that would not allow me to move. And he's speaking to me, and I hear the Lord tell me, like, I've called you to preach my word, like, and it was clear as day. And he's like, surely, like, they will know that I've called you to this, like. And I'm crying, like I'm bawling. I can't even remember everything that's being said to me in this moment, but I just know that it's an experience that I've just like have not had before. And so like I leave from there, and and I'm writing, like even at the time, like I would write certain things down when I could remember it. And I remember even during that time period, the Lord told me, like, listen, seek ye first the kingdom of God, all of his righteousness. And he said, like, if you take care of my business, like everything else will be added unto you. And so that was at 18 years old. But when God calls us to something, the full manifestation of how we will get there, the full manifestation of what it will require, what it will take, all of that is not, you don't find that all out until you really decide to just follow, like till you decide to go along, like, you know. And so God can call us to do something, but the full manifestation of it, we don't see it all. He's not giving us the full picture. It's just like, look, I've called you to this. This is like, you know, what I'm, and like for me, so I guess at 18 years old, what I really had to understand and learn from, I want to say from like 18 to my early 20s, was really understanding what it means to like follow God and to endure with God. And a lot of times, right, like I feel like the world we live in today, so many people want to do so many things, like, you know, like, oh God, what is my purpose? What am I called to do? All these different things. And it's like, no, as sons and daughters, the first thing that we're called to do is follow. Like, and in the follow, he will make you. Like the disciples, he didn't say, oh, I'm gonna make you an apostle. Like, no, he said, follow me. And exactly, like, he didn't, it wasn't automatically like, oh yeah, you guys are going to be apostles and, you know, you're going to like deliver my gospel all over this world. Like, no, it was, you guys were first called to be disciples and to follow him. And so that was like, I felt like in my early years, although I did start preaching the gospel at an early age, like I feel like I really had to learn and understand what it means to follow him. And then at, what was that? This had to be back in like 2020 that and at the time, right, it was funny because you asked me like, how did pastoralship come up? Like, what's funny is at the time I was just following and serving. Like, so my pastor at the time, my job was like, okay, my my church is in South Jersey, but the Lord had planted it in my leader's heart to launch a Staten Island location. And so at the time, I'm just a person that, look, this is the city that I'm from. While I was in school, I was praying that God will start a ministry on Staten Island because I'm just like, yo, Staten Island needs like, it needs something. Like, so I would be like, God, like do something in my city. So when my leaders had came, you know, like, and I'm like, somebody was just like, oh yeah, like if God put it on my leader's heart to start this ministry. I'm like, okay, so I'm showing up and I'm inviting people, I'm doing like all the things, like, and however I could serve, right? And so at the time, the responsibility they gave me was just lead prayer. Then it was like, all right, open up the doors of the church. Since you live in Staten Island, they lived in South Jersey, open up the doors of the church. So however I could like serve, that was what it was for me. But I didn't know that serving was preparing me to become like campus pastor. Like I didn't know that. I had no clue. So when they had the conversation with me, like, oh yeah, you know, the Lord is putting it on our hearts, like we're gonna start training you for pastoralship. I'm like, like, hold on, what you mean? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. And it's funny because in 2020 I also met my husband, and like we had started out as friends, and it's funny because they had that conversation with me in what, like September-ish. And again, I said we were just friends. He started the master's program at his college. It was a master's in divinity. So I didn't know that all along, right? Like I'm being trained for pastoralship. You're in a master's program, getting an MDiv. Like I didn't know that God was really just orchestrating things just behind the scenes, just like putting everything all together, you know? And so my initial, like, even when I was told, like, hey, we're going to start training you for pastoralship, to be honest, nobody probably don't know this. And this is the first time that I'm actually openly admitting it. The only person that knew the uncomfortability that I felt was my husband. Like, because I felt like it was such a weight and a heavy responsibility, you know? Like, I'm like, for me as a person, I willingly pray for those that's around me. I willingly intercede for those that's around me, but it hits different when like it's a responsibility now. Like when it's no longer you're doing this just because that's the kind of heart that you have. Like you're doing this just because, like, as a sister, as a daughter, as a friend, like this is what you choose to do for the people that you know, or and even those you don't know, right? It hits different when it's like, okay, no, but now you are like responsible for people. And so now like it, like all of that. So just honestly, initially being called to pastoralship was uncomfortable for me. It was uncomfortable, to be honest, initially. And I felt like God, I was like, I remember sitting in my car one day and I said to the Lord, I was like, Lord, like, I was just like what? Like, wait, what?
Right?
Like, I couldn't really wrap my mind around it,
Yeah.
to be honest. And the Lord told me, like, I can trust you with this. And I'm just like, God, but I am, like, I had to, it was really a back and forth thing for me. And then one day I felt convicted. I'm like, God, because I always say to you, whatever it is you want me to do, that I'm willing. And here it is that to another level you're requiring more of me. And it's an internal war happening. And so I felt convicted, and I'm like, all right, Lord, like, whatever it is, you know, like, however it is that you want to use me, like, you have my yes, because at the end of the day, this life is not my own. Like, right? I want to live a life poured out for you. Right. So whatever it is you want me to do, like, I'll do it, even if it's beyond my comfortability, even if I feel like hesitant, reluctant around it. It's just like, if this is what you're calling me to do, you got my yes, because I love you. There. So
that right there for me, like, I want to piggyback off what you said, because you mentioned, thank you. You mentioned wandering. It was a time where you wandered. I think my wandering was that thank you, Holy Spirit. I think my wandering, he was like, say it. You better say it. Okay, I'm saying it. Relax. Got it. I think my wandering was in a result of the fear of losing out on people because I'm choosing Jesus. Like, and I think it would have made me more of an outcast than I already was as a child.
Wow.
So I think for me, it not only was people pleasing, but it was a yearning to fit in. And I think God was like, you fit in with me. And I'm like, I don't know about that, brother. Hold on now. Maybe an outcast for a reason. I don't know about that. And I think that's what I was seeking. Like, I was seeking for a place to belong, but he was calling me to say you belong. And I think because you was like 17, and it hit me because like 17, God told me, like, you're going to speak. And I'm like, no, I'm not. So again, here I am following passion project. I remember doing like YouTube. My husband were like doing like funny, dumb stuff. I'm a boyfriend at the time. And I remember I always spoke. Like, the thing about it is I always had a gift of speaking. The thing about it is I didn't really know what to talk about. And when I did speak, it was like people didn't listen. I remember one time I was talking to this girl, and she's like, you just we was talking, like, so you know how you be laying with your friends in the bed and you talk about, like, all the dreams? So I'm talking, like, of all my dreams and stuff. And she falls asleep on me. So she goes to my other associate at the time, and she's like, yeah, she preached me to sleep. And then that was, like, the joke about me, like, you be preaching. Like, just be quiet, Lovey. You preach all day. And I was like, oh, so y'all don't want me to talk? Like, so I'm just be quiet. And I took that, and that was a seed that was planted in me, that my words mean nothing. Like, I have nothing to say. So subconsciously, that was something I was battling with, which I would not. Which is why I like always went against speaking. Yeah. And I would use things to try to get me there, but not use that. And I think, like for you, for me, what God was doing for me is I think He knew that I wouldn't have a problem with speaking. It's just that when it came to speaking, He knew I had an insecurity about what it is I'm speaking about. So it was like, you know what? I'm going to make you speak about me. But you can't just speak about me. You have to study me. You have to know me. You have to spend time with me. Yeah. And what he started doing was, so he would give me something to say. And I could, literally, he'll give me a quote, like something really simple. And I can make an entire video of that. But then he'll make me say it. And then he'll hold me accountable to what I said. So it was like, okay, because I know you're going to say it. Because I'm giving you it to speak. But now I'm going to hold you accountable. So I want you to be careful on what you say. Right. Because now when you go post that video, you have to live it. Yeah. So he was like, what you speak is what you're going to live. I need you to live by it. And I was like, come on, brother. I can't do all this. And I remember when I was opening my Bible, and I think that was a difference. Because I remember we were speaking, and I was like, hey, like, I try to, jump into it. And I was looking for me. And a lot of it. I'm like, because I would listen to sermons, I'm like, that don't got nothing to do with me. Like, I ain't going through that. Like, that's that person's problem, right? Yeah. And literally he turned off and he like, well, here you go. I'm like, wait, sir, hold on. I just said that's not for me. But I feel like now when I open my Bible, I seek him. And it gives me the confidence to speak. Because it's like, I'm learning from the Creator himself. Yeah. And I think the patience he had on me is wonderful because I'm hard-headed. Hard head is. My grandma always used to say a hard head make a soft you know what.
Right.
But it took a while for me to trust because, like you said, like I put a lot of trust in people.
Yeah.
And been let down countless times, especially like 6 months, being 6 months, and like my father leaving my mom, and my mom having to go back to jail because of my father leaving my mom. My mom ends up like relapsing, and here I am, 6 months old, and I have no parents, and I have a grandmother who's raising me. But it's like, you know, she already raised her children. You know what I mean? Like she's taking on responsibility as a grandparent, but then it's like, here I am in a world, and this is like my first like abandonment shock.
Yeah.
So, but the whole time, I will later learn that God was with me the entire time. I was never left alone.
Yeah.
Like, and it showed out in my life, like how many times He has placed His hand on me. Like, no, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
And He will let me like go through certain things just to, because again, He knew. This is how you know He knew you from the moment you was in your mother's womb.
Right.
He knew the type of child I was, that I needed to experience something close to it. So I'd be like, yeah, no. Like, I was the type of child, I would put my hand over the stove so it could get a little burnt and be like, okay, I'm not going to touch it.
Yeah.
So He knew that, like, in order for me to return to Him or to turn to Him, there's things I had to go in through my life to redirect me towards Him.
Yeah.
And even when I was, like, a little double-minded, because it was like, God, how can you show me you're better? And I remember, like, even now going through affliction. And I remember, so when you said He was preparing you, I feel like that's what He's doing with me now. And I'm telling you, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, He's really good. So me and my husband moved to Pennsylvania. We didn't have a job. We didn't have no jobs out there. We didn't know where we was going, where we was landing. We just knew we wanted to get out of the environment we was in.
Yeah.
So this is all in 2020. 2020, the only person that we can rely on is God Himself. There's no family around us. We're literally moving from our comfortability and just jumping into just ice water, basically.
Yeah.
So I remember at this time running my business. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm doing that, doing all the things. God said, yeah, no, I gave you a glimpse. Here you go. It's done. This is not where I want you. And He's telling me this. I'm like, but I don't know where you want me, because I'm not talking. I don't have nothing to say. And this is the seed that's planted. Like, nobody cares about what I have to say.
Yeah.
So, I'm praying. I get into this group, like this coaching group, and I get on a call. Now I'm in front of like 100 plus women on this call, and I just start crying because, again, I feel heavy. And it's like a Christian based thing. And she's like, God wants you to talk, LaBeija. It's time for you to talk. She's like, you have something to say. I'm like, no, because the person I created and the person I want to be, they can't coexist. She's like, yes, they can. They can coexist. It's all right. And I remember right after I got off the call, I made my first video. And I was working in a hospital as a janitor at the time. So, like, I was at my lowest. I'm like, Lord, you got me cleaning, like, rooms and stuff. Come on, Jesus. I was just owning a business. Why couldn't I stay there? Like, I was good. He was like, no, I needed to humble you. And I remember, and now that's where I'm at in Exodus. Because when He called Moses to him, He said, take off your sandals. Let me humble you. Touch the ground. You're on holy ground. So I felt like that journey, He was humbling me. Because I was like, Lord, like, what did I do to you? I did. But He was bringing me back. Because I remember I would go from being basically they call it environmental specialist. I was a janitor. I would go from being a janitor, cleaning floors, but the entire time I'm listening to like sermons after sermons after sermons. And I make my first video, and the video was about, I think it was about the walk where people go to donate their organs, because I witnessed it for the first time. And that was the first time I would get a message from Him to make into a video. And then from there, I would do it. But again, I'm like, and I would do it. And I'm like, all right, so God. So I remember I left that job. I'll go be a cashier. No, actually, it was the other way around. I was a cashier at BJ. So basically, He brought me back to like the beginning, because my first job was a cashier. So He would bring me to BJ's, and I hated that job. And I was like, but Lord, that was my first time of giving Him like my surrender, because I'm like, I'm not going to leave until you tell me to. Because I was ready to quit like yesterday. And I'm there, and I mean, I hate it so bad, but I remember I read in the Bible, like, work like you're working for God. So every time I got a person, I'm like, hi, how are you? I'm just giving them the best of me. But then I got my one AirPod in, and I'm just listening to sermon after sermon. Then I go to the hospital, and I get that encounter. I'm like, all right, Lord. So then my husband comes to me. He's like, I need you to quit your job. He's like, God's telling me you have to stay home. So I'm like, all right, so quit the job. And then now I'm home. So I'm home, and it's just me and God. If my kid is at daycare, my husband's at work, it's just me and God in this house.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking he's calling me to be a life coach. So I'm like, okay, God, like, I know I want to coach, da-da-da. He sends this one girl who reaches out to me randomly. She goes, I want you to be my mentor. Because at this time, I'm like, I don't have nothing to say. Well, I can't change nobody's life. I'm just me. So, okay, I'm going to show you. So he sends me this girl, and for, like, you could say, like, 12 weeks, we're just working together. Like, we're on calls. I'm just pouring into her. I'm just telling her, like, what God's sharing me, I'm sharing with her. And I cannot kid you not, every month or so, this girl sends me a text message about how I changed her life. And I'm just like, Lord, I don't know what you're doing. Like, I don't know what you're doing. So from there, I'm like, okay, I can help more people. I go to help like 4 more people. They're like, yeah, like what you said, you're really like, you really have something. And I'm like, I still don't believe it. I'm like, yeah, sure. So then my husband gets hurt at work. So now I'm like, okay, I got to go back to work. So I said, God, usually I just take any job that can pay me, I'll take it. But I said, God, I don't want a job this time. I need something that's going to help me with my purpose, Lord. I need something. So mind you, where we go, so in order for us to get to New York, we have to pass this building, right? And every time we pass this building, I told myself, I'm gonna work there one day. I don't know when, I don't know how, but I'm gonna work there one day. So I go to the website and it says packaging, because it was a bakery. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna add to packaging. They said denied. No. I said, all right, that was a little harsh. So then I see production trainer, and I see like speaking and something like that. I said, I'm not experienced in it, but I'll try it. I go to apply. They said, we wanted you for an interview. So what are you, Lord? I said, Lord, you know me and you. I do not qualify for this. I go in, I have an amazing interview. So I said, God, this is not me. I don't know what you expect, but we're going to figure it out. They needed me to do a presentation. I said, Lord, I don't know what I'm doing. He's like, Louisa, be quiet. We got this. I end up getting the job because the whole thing is I didn't have no training in speaking. I just knew to speak was on my mind. Whatever, my husband, as you can say, I don't know how to pronounce stuff. I would pronounce something totally different. He'd be like, that's the wrong word. I'd be like, you know what I meant. You know what I meant. But the whole time I'm like, Lord, I don't want a job. I need something to train me. If this is what purpose, if this is what you see for me, then I need to be trained in it before anything big. At this point, I'm not even asking for nothing big. Because at the beginning, I'm thinking, oh, be a motivational speaker. I'm like, but I'm not always motivational. I have bad days more than good. So I was like, I can't motivate nobody. Right. So I literally get this job. And then I first get a job, I said, I can't do it. I'm crying to the girl who's my trainer. I'm like, I can't do this. She was like, that's a you thing. She's like, you're fighting against yourself. She's like, I see it in you. You have what it takes. I'm like, all right. I can't do this. I'm like, Jesus, how do you expect me to sit up in front of people? I never talked in front of a group of people, because I never do that. Yeah. 6 months in, I get the entire program to myself. 6 months in, the program is mine, meaning I'm running the entire thing by myself. I don't have nobody else. It's just me. Wow. And and to this day, I can't say it's not me. And that's what's building my confidence in speaking, is because he's preparing me. Yeah. And I remember I was sitting at my desk, and I was doing past tense, I used to do like these things I want to accomplish within a year. So I write like everything I could think of in my mind. And in 2023, at the end of it, he said, Pastor. I said, no. I'm not writing that down. I get home, I continue it. He says, Pastor. I said, no, I'm not writing that down. I said, you know what, I'm going to write it down, but that's not going to happen. I don't know what you mean. And I wrote it, and I never told nobody. I think the only person I would tell was my husband, but I've never disclosed that. And I am terrified. Don't get me wrong, I don't mind talking. I talk to you all day. I talk to a group of people because I have a script. Yeah. But like you said, the responsibility of having that, I'm like, yeah, Jesus, I don't know about that, brother. So, but I understand the preparation, because, even when I'm reading, Exodus, and I'm, there, and I notice, the preparation he had for Moses. You would think, Moses is a murderer. Most people in our today's society is giving up on that. He killed somebody, he's unworthy. Right. But God would do something that in the world is impossible, but he will make it possible. Yeah. And I'm like, you see? Right. Because it's fun to say it, in a motivational way, or to say it where you hear it, but to live it is a different experience. Because it's no, I'm not saying this to say it. I'm saying it because I'm living this right now. I've endured moments where I am in chaos. I'm talking about utter chaos. and I'm calm.
Yeah.
Because I said yes, like I surrendered. And I think that was like this summer, I was at my lowest. Like I'm talking about lowest. Like everything was just jacking up, everything. And I got on my knees and I said, God, your will, your way. I said, even if I don't like it.
Yeah.
Even if your will, your way.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to give it to you. Because I'm tired of going off my own confidence.
Yeah.
I'm tired of going off my own. And it's just not, it's not doing it for me.
It's not sufficient,
I'm tired of being in control.
Yeah.
I don't want it no more. You can have it. And the moment that I did that, I felt a shift in me because I felt like you are better. You are 100% better. Yeah. Because what the world's not going to tell you is that, like, they don't want you to think that God is better. They want you to think that God is a chart that you have to follow and it's rules and you can't live a life. But the moment that I finally gave him my yes, after giving him so many no's, because I gave that man some no's, but after giving him so many no's, and I finally said, you know what, Lord, yes, your will be done. Yeah. And your will, your way. Not in the way, even let your will be done. And and once I said that, I felt like, he was like, you finally came home. Thank you, Louise. You finally did it. And I was like, and even now there's times where I'm just like, your will, your way, Father. Like, I'm talking about on some things that you're probably like, girl, you sure? Yeah, his will, his way. Whatever you want me to do. Even down to what I'm doing now, it's like, as terrifying as it is, your will, your way, God.
Your will, your way.
Your will, your way. And it's like, as much as you don't want to do it, like, I know you getting up and you talking to people and you just like, oh, but that's sorry. Hey, people, how you doing out there? So we're getting into this book right here. I know how nervous it can get, but it's a beautiful feeling in obedience. Yeah. And what I read recently in Exodus, I'm literally like 18, and he was like, no, it's the thing before that. Sorry, I have to go to it, y'all, because
you good.
The Lord be speaking in this book right here. He be getting it. But in Exodus, this is after they have been saved out of Egypt, and something struck me when he said this, because I said, wow, I don't think most people was able to catch it. So this is chapter 15. This is verses 25. But lower, he goes, the Lord made a statute and ordinance for them at Marah, and he tested them there. He said, if you will carefully obey the Lord, carefully. And when I read that, I said, Lord, when people are obedient to you, are they just like knowing what they have to do and they just go do it? Or are they doing step by step? Is that you have to trust me on this journey. You have to walk in the path that I created for you. In the affliction, I need you to still trust in me because I still got you. Yeah. Like, is it careful obedience? Like, even in the, I don't want to do this, Lord. Am I still going to carefully make sure that I'm holding up your righteousness? Right. Am I still going to carefully walk the path that you have set out for me? Yeah. And it's like, that hit me because I'm like, okay, how could I be careful in my obedience? How can I make sure that as I'm walking the path that you want me to walk, I'm detailed in it. Yeah. I'm making sure that I'm taking the proper steps I need, and I'm hearing for your voice, and I'm not getting distracted by what might come out of this, and I'm not getting distracted by what's on the side or the left, but I'm just carefully walking the steps you have. Yeah. And I'm like, Lord, I just hope. Because it's really scary. And the funny thing about it is sometimes I, like me personally, I'm like, girl, but you like to talk. Yeah, not in front of human beings. Human beings are a little different. Like, they're different. But it's also like, I think my most fear, because this is around the time where people's like, false prophet this, and false this, and false that. Yeah. And I remember crying. I said, God, I don't want to do that. And I think that's what also held me back. Because I'm like, Lord, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to go say your word and I'm not doing it right. Yeah, I don't want to go to heaven. And he goes, who are you? I don't know you. I said, wait, hold on. Right. I was out casting demons. No, you was not on my record. I don't know who you are. Yeah. So, like, for that, to have that responsibility, is there a time that you feel or you have a fear of maybe representing God? Like, my question would be, you being a pastor, you seeing pastors represent God not in up to his righteous standard. How as a pastor do you, like, not only not allow yourself to do that, but how do you continue to, like, show his righteousness and allow people to like see it through you?
I think the number one thing is like remaining submitted to him, because I think submission to him, right, means that I'm dying to self. It means that I'm not choosing to do things how Lani would want to do it. I'm not choosing to do things my own way. I'm not choosing to allow other things to now start rising up in me, and I'm going off of those things, right? Like, because I feel like even as people begin to grow, and as you whether it's grow and recognition or any of those things, like there's other things that could begin to rise up if you don't remain submitted to him, because you could start thinking that you could do it on your own ability. You could start relying on self. Pride could creep in, like all of these different things. And so I think the number one thing is to remain submitted to him, like continuing to run to the place of prayer, continuing to run to his word, like that submission to him is so key in this walk. And I feel like that's just simply just from following, and even at any and every level you get to, whether it's pastoralship, whether it's being like just having influence, whatever it is that God is calling you to, I think is so important to remain submitted to him. Like, because sometimes, like, I feel like people could go according to your own. You could. It's so we're human. It's so easy for us to, if we know how to do something, it's easy to go according to what you know how to do. But the minute that you start relying on self is the minute where other things, you give space for other things to creep in. So I think that submission to him is so key. And to be honest, because you were mentioning like that, the nervousness and like the fear, all of those different things, like I feel like for me personally, because anytime that I have to speak on behalf of God, I'm nervous, right? Because for me, it's like you are so holy. Your word is so holy. And so I never want to mishandle your word. But at the same time, I feel like that is a good thing because it keeps me humble. It keeps me not relying on self. It keeps me realizing like, yo, your own human ability is flawed. Like the Bible says that our righteousness is as filthy as rags. So it's not me relying on my own self, but it's relying on him. Like it's again, another scripture, it's not by power, not by might, but it's by the Spirit. Like it's by his Spirit. So like I think that's the number one thing, is to just remain submitted. Because if not, that's, you give way for other things to creep in. Like I think so. I feel like that's what I would say.
I want to ask a question.
Oh, not you butting on in the podcast. Don't make this a habit, brother. You on my last episode.
No. I want to ask you a question. So
go ahead.
You and your husband both
pastor. Yeah.
What is the challenge of y'all both being pastors and having being married? Because like you just said, we see it on YouTube with pastors, and they make it seem so easy. I'm like, it's because a regular marriage without being two pastors,
it's crazy.
It's crazy. So I'm like, it gotta be like God gotta be in that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm like, a regular marriage hard.
Yeah.
Very hard.
So I'm like, oh my God, be married and then we gotta still
push
the Lord's word.
Right. No, marriage in itself is work, right? But I feel like at the same time, like that's the beautiful part, because it's covenant. Like it's literally God ordained. It's covenant, right? And so I think, like you mentioned, like marriage in itself is hard, but now marriage and pastoralship, like that in itself is work. But to be honest, I think like having God at the foundation, and I'm like I feel like anybody would say that. Any Christian would be like, oh yeah, keep God at the foundation.
Yeah. But like, what does that look like for y'all?
For us, so even prior to pastoralship, before pastoralship, before parenthood, for like an entire year, I remember God had gave us an instruction to pray together, right? it was a specific time, and like we set out, like it didn't matter where we were. Like I remember it was times in that time it was 11 o'clock, right? Like that time it was 11 o'clock, like pray together. And I remember there were times where, because we travel, like we're on the road sometimes a lot, like I my job requires me to travel sometimes, like and so we travel, whatever. So there would be times where we would be on the road, 11 o'clock hit, we're in the car praying. Like so for an entire year, before any of this stuff even happened, like for an entire year, we made it our business to be in intercession together, like be in prayer together. And this was before the Lord even called us to pastor together. This was just like in year one of marriage. Like this was before anybody ever said, oh yeah, like I see the Lord like calling you guys to do this together. This was before any of that. Like we just did it just because God called us to the place of prayer together. And it was in that we actually learned that pastoralship, like that would happen, us doing that together. And so I think that being the foundation, and so now being in it together, like keeping that going. So now it's different. Things have shifted. We have a kid now, so it's not 11 o'clock, you know, like it's not how it used to be, where we used to be able to be diligent in our seek at a specific time. Now it's like, all right, we have to carve out time, however that looks like. It's whether it's when our kid goes to sleep, whether it's he's in a living room with us, like however it looks. But it's like just making sure that we keep that present, because that in itself, not only was that the foundation for us, but that is what keeps us fortified. Like and so I think like that's really what it is. Like it's prayer for us. It's talking, communication, like it's being able to be honest and open with one another, because pastoralship, any work for the Lord, it's like, it's not that it's challenging, but as long as it's requiring you to die to self, it's gonna be work, you know? Like it's gonna be work, and it's gonna be moments where it's like, God, like this might feel weedy, or this might feel like a bit much, but I feel like us being able to communicate that with one another and then hold each other up in prayer. Like he's able to pick me up in prayer and like intercede. I'm able to pick you up in prayer, intercede. Then there's those times where it's like, all right, we gotta go to like we gotta go together, like, you know. And that's and also being able to identify, like, when it's like, all right, these are challenges, there's things that's coming up, and it's because the Lord is trying to teach you a lesson, and he's trying to produce fruit, right? Because the way the fruits of the Spirit is produced, it's not just like, oh yeah, here's patience, here's joy, here's peace. No, like sometimes you have to go through different things that requires you to be patient, to learn what that is. You have to go through different things where it's like you said, chaos is happening, yet still there's a peace. Like you have to, so in order for those fruits to be produced, sometimes it has to be different things happening. And so I feel like for us, like that's what it is sometimes, where even when like it may be challenging, being able to confide in one another and then also hold each other up in prayer, like that. So
What did your husband also grow up in Christianity?
It was the same thing. Like he grew up going to church, but for him, like he made the decision when he was in college. Awesome. He was like, he said, like, his story is like he tried to do things his way. Like he was like, I was even at a point one time where I'm like, God, I'm good. Like I'm gonna try to do this life without you. And he said like that was the worst year of his life. So for him, like he had that moment where it was like, I need the Lord. Like so
Are you done with your questions over there? Appreciate you for stepping in. Love you. All right, so what I would like to ask you, because you're a pastor, we are getting new Christians. You're young kids, Gen Zs, millennials that are curious. We also know that we are also in a world where people are video after video, this after this, this after this. So to a person who has experienced, let's say, a lot of ups and downs in life, they're considering the choice to go to God, but they're not sure. How, like, what can you say to them to make the decision to know that God is better than the world?
Whew. So I always say, right, there's this saying that I say, and I've like, if anybody ever watched a sermon or if anybody's ever listened to an episode on a podcast, I always say, like, the go through with Christ looks different. And the reason why I say that is because I feel like, me personally, even though I gave my life to Christ at a young age, remember I mentioned that time period where I felt like I fell away. So I feel like now that I'm older and I'm able to look back, I see why that time period was necessary, right? And I feel like it was necessary because I've experienced what it's like to live life, to walk with him and to go through with him. And then I experienced what it's like to go through without him. And the go through with him looks so much different than going through without him. Like, life could be happening, situations could be happening, but it's like somehow in the midst of the storm, there's peace. Like, things could be happening, chaos is happening, but in the midst of this, like, in the midst of everything, it's like the Lord shows himself to be a provider. It's like, you know, and like, and it's not even just those things, right? It's not just even in those things, but I'm talking about even in time periods, because sometimes we look for the tangible things to say, like, oh yeah, that was God. Like, you know, the Lord provided me with this. That was God. We look for the tangible things to speak to his goodness. But I'm talking about enduring seasons where, like, literally experiencing the comfort of God, where it's like anybody else would probably like just ready to throw in the towel, and it's just like, but I'm experiencing, somehow I know that he's with me. Like, somehow I know that his hand is on me. Somehow, like, I could feel, like, I remember one time literally in my room and feeling like I could feel. And I'm like, I don't know why. Sometimes when I talk about God, I be getting emotional.
As you should. He's here. Welcome,
but like,
Jesus.
I could like feel the depression trying to like weigh on me, and I felt like it was almost like I felt like just the presence of God just like gripped me in such a way. Like, I felt his love just like surrounding me, and I felt like my hands was lifted, and I felt like it was like a hand that was so much bigger than mine,
on yours.
And like just like it's like I'm squeezing, and it's like everything that I'm feeling, the weight of what I'm feeling, it's like as I'm squeezing this hand, this presence, it's like whatever it is that's on me is lifting. I can't experience that in the world.
Nope.
There's nothing in the world that is sufficient enough that would suffice for that. Like, there's nothing in the world that could be an outlet, to be honest. Like, and I, again, like where I said, like, I've tried the, you know, like falling away from God. I'm just like, there's no other outlet. Like, people try, you know, look for outlets in so many different things, be it drugs, be it alcohol, be it all of these different things, right? But it's like, when the high wear off, where all those things wear off, the issue is still there. The depth of the pain is still there, right? And so for me, I feel like running to God, I have nothing to lose. Like, I have nothing to lose. It's like, okay, I'm going to run and I'm going to cast my cares. And maybe initially, yes, there was moments where I feel like, okay, I'm running, like I go to God, and immediately it feels like something is lifted. But then it's those times where it's like I go to God and I have to keep on going. But it's like, somehow in the midst of it, I feel your comfort. Somehow in the midst of it, I feel your peace. Somehow in the midst of it, I feel your love. Like, I feel you speaking to me in different ways, whether it's a message, whether it's through your word, whether it's like I'm driving somewhere and I see something, like I see, and
it just makes your heart smile.
It's like, God, you are really present. Like, it's not a figment of an imagination. It's real, right? And like, and so for anybody, whether it's Gen Z, millennial, just like, Christ is better simply because he is. Like, Christ is better because, to be honest, we could look for so many outlets in the world. We could look for so many outlets in other things, but those things will fail you.
It will.
Like,
it will.
It will fail you.
It
like
will.
The
or
Bible
lead you
says,
to the grave.
heaven, exactly.
It will definitely lead you to the grave.
Like, the Bible says heaven and earth will pass away, but the word of God, right? Jesus Christ is the word. That's Bible. He's the word.
In the beginning, it was the word.
Exactly. Like, the word of God, it stands forever.
Yeah.
And so Christ, he stands forever, and these other things in the world, it will fail you. Like these other outlets that people run to, it will fail you.
Yeah, that was me. I remember, like, I don't know how to drink, and I don't drink because of that. But also in my family, there's addiction. Mm-hmm. So that's another reason why I never wanted to, like, drink or smoke or anything, because of fear of being addicted. Mm-hmm. But every time your girl got drunk, I would be like, listen, why am I doing this? I'd be, like, it was just such a bad fit. It made it feel worse, but it's like you think you're getting away from it, but then the next morning it's worse than it was the night before. Yeah. And you would think that drinking or smoking temporarily takes it away, or if you continue it, it permanently removes it. But it's still there, and I think, it was still there. And I think what it was is I was in a lot of hurt. I was in a lot of pain, and it was like from my childhood to my adulthood, and I was harboring so much, and I was searching the world for healing, and I never found it. If anything, I was just damaging myself more and more of the decisions I was making. And I would say the reason why Jesus is better, because for the first time in my life, when I turned to him, he gave me something I was never able to receive from the world, and that was love. Mm. That was acceptance. That was forgiveness. Yeah. I couldn't even give that to myself. He gave it to me. Mm. Talking about since I was young, so like let's say 12 years old till let's say 12 years old till about 25. I'm searching and I'm yearning and I'm looking for it in people, places, and things. Yeah. And then the first time in my life when I'm like, you know what, Lord, allow me to feel it. Because I didn't even know how to receive it. I was like, God, just let me receive it. If you allow me to just, and I'm like, this is so much better. Yeah. Because the other stuff is temporary fixes. It's temporal. And it's extra damage. Yeah. On top of what you already have, it just adds to it. So like not only am I filled with this, I'm just adding on until I can't hold it no more. And then that's when suicidation comes in, because you're like, Lord, I can't. Right. And I feel like that's just the experience of him is something that is priceless. Yeah. And it should be spoken about because of how beautiful the experience is. Like he's such a beautiful, matchless God, and ooh, Lord, you are just so good.
Yeah. I just wanted to piggyback on what you said. I feel like the easier way to put it to like the millennials would be like, until you find something and prove it to me that it's better, what else would you go to? Right. Yeah. Like I don't care. We all tried. Yeah. Yeah. But we all failed in that. Like, nobody came up and been like, yo, nah, I got something better. Though. Right. All right, let me see. Let me get that. Let me get that. Nobody has done that. So it's like, what else? Yeah. You tried everything, that's right? It, yeah. So it's like, that's how I just be trying to tell the youth, like, you tried everything. You did it, right?
And you better do it before it's too late. Yeah. Yeah.
Still mad. You still
angry. Yeah.
Why not just
try Jesus?
Right. Just so he can show you himself how he's better. Because he's going to show you. Yeah. He's definitely going to show you.
If you would take a pill and you don't know what's going to kill you, now you're telling me you can't try
Jesus? Yeah.
No, for real.
Yeah.
No, for real.
Yeah, for real. Because that's Russian roulette with your life right there. That's playing Russian roulette.
You'll drink and get in a car and drive.
Yeah, but you won't try. Yeah.
Right.
Y'all crazy. Y'all dangerous.
Because they're running from him. They're running. They're running.
You'll pull a gun out.
Yeah.
And do some work.
Yeah. But, you won't try Jesus.
Right.
Yeah.
Bro, come on now. I'd rather talk to Jesus than go to jail for
no,
but that's what it says in the Bible. It will lead you to death. It will lead you. That's where it leads you to. Yeah. If you keep playing with it, temptation you think is nothing. And I think one thing I would like to leave, and I want you to leave a message for the peoples too. But one thing I would like to leave is I feel like people have the reason why they don't like they think the world is better is because they forgot that they die. Like they think that they live forever. I feel like people don't understand that time is running out. Yeah. I feel like he's ready to return soon. And I feel like people, because we're in a world of microwavable success and things is coming quickly, that we have all the time in the world to go, I'll turn to you. I think they put him on a shelf and go, when I'm ready, let me go do all the things in the world. And then, I'll pick you up later. I think that's why they don't think he's better, because what the world is showing them and some of their actions is showing them that it's better there. But is it really?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we got to also admit there's people that got billions of dollars and they killed themselves.
Exactly.
So it ain't all that good.
Yeah.
Trying Jesus, I think, is just the best. It's the best decision anyone can make.
Absolutely.
Anyone.
Absolutely. It's the safest.
It's not easy.
Yeah.
It's definitely not easy. And the thing is, I feel like when people are introduced to Christianity, they think it's like, I know me. I thought it was about to be a walk in the park, honey. I was about to be making my way downtown.
I'm cracking up.
Faces passing our home down. I literally thought that's what it was going to be like. It was a total opposite, but I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Absolutely
not. I wouldn't trade it for the world, because had it not been the way it was, I don't think I would be the person I am today. Because he completely changed me.
You gotta think about it too. We're imperfect beings trying to follow a God who is perfect. Like he's eternal. And here we are trying to walk out this life imperfect, you know? Like we are flawed. Like this flesh is flawed. Like the scripture that comes to my mind, even as I'm saying that, is in Romans. I believe it's in chapter 7, where Paul is like, the things that I don't want to do, I find myself doing. And he's like, the things that I want to do, those things that I don't do. He says, who can separate? Like, who can save me from this body of sin? Like, only Jesus Christ. Like, he calls himself a wretched man. And so it's like, we are imperfect beings trying to follow a perfect God. And so, of course, it's going to be challenges, but the beauty is the transformation. I feel like that happens for us, because when you just make the decision to follow, when you look back, it's like, I am not the same person that I used to be. Like, people think that, making a decision to follow Christ is just, it's all of these rules. Like, I feel like that's some of the things that prevent people from following. It's like, I still want to do this. I still want to do that. Like, but life is fleeing. The Bible says that the world and its desires will pass away, but the man that does the will of God lives forever. And not only that, but another scripture that came to my mind is, what does it profit a man to gain the world? You gain everything and lose your soul. Like, it's like, the Lord is able to transform. He's able to heal. He's able to set you free from childhood wounds, from trauma, from addiction, from lust, from perversion, from all of these different things. It's like, but it just, like, all you have to do is make the decision to follow. Is it going to be easy? No. Is it going to be a walk in the park? No, but your life will forever be changed. Like, your life will forever be transformed. It's going to require you to die to yourself. It's going to require you to say no to some things, but in the end, in the long run, it makes you such a exactly, and it makes you so much, just like a better being. Like, we're created in His image, right? We're it's meant for us. It's intended for us to follow. He's looking for us to follow Him. Like, and so it's just like, man, choose Christ.
Yeah,
like, that's it. Like,
choose Christ.
That's it.
That's it. That's what you got. That's all the only option you got. It's just choose Christ.
It's really the best decision. Like,
it really I can attest to that. I can definitely attest to that. So I think we're gonna leave it at no, because she killed it. I don't got no followers. We gotta do a part 2 to this. This was so good.
I enjoyed it.
Oh my god! Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you, guys. That is a wrap up of A Conversation with God with Beasuejour and Miss Lani. So, definitely check the description box. I will be adding her podcast information there as well as her Instagram, so you guys can please go follow, go find her. I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe. Peace. Bye.